I haven't studied Japanese history a lot, which I sort of regret. A lot of missionaries, especially if they're going to Japan, they ask me, what's something maybe you would have wished you'd done before your mission? And I often say, I wish I'd studied the history a little more, because I feel like that's another thing that they will appreciate. Like, and you can show your love for the people that you're working with by knowing a little bit about them, why they are the way they are, that sort of thing. But even to this day, I confess, I don't know Japanese history as well as I'd like to. I know a few things. I know that they've had a pattern of isolation from the world, which has sort of led to, I think, some of their traits. I don't know too much about that, even though I know at one point they were so isolated that I think, I'm not sure, another country intervened. They did sort of a naval blockade, like they cut off one of their ports to force them to start trading with other countries. Again, don't quote me on any of this, because a lot of it has been sort of things that maybe Japanese people have told me, other missionaries have told me, that I've maybe have not verified myself. You know, I haven't busted out the Britannica and made sure that all these were very true. And unfortunately, in history classes, they very rarely cover Eastern Asia, which obviously bothers me a little bit. But I'm in a history class right now, and he specifically said that. He said, we're not going to really go into Eastern Asia almost at all. And I was, fine, whatever. But I think one thing that I did learn that I have heard from a couple sources, I believe it's accurate, that I found really interesting about a little Japanese history, more recent Japanese history rather than more ancient Japanese history, was about sort of where their current sort of cultural norm is in terms of religion. It's interesting because a lot of Japanese people, when we would try to talk to them, because obviously we're proselyting, they would tell us that they are Buddhist. And a lot of the times they would even go as far as to say, I am Japanese, therefore I am Buddhist. Which in my opinion is actually kind of ironic once you sort of learn a little bit of the history of that, because anybody who studied religion to most degrees would know that Buddhism is actually an Indian religion. And so it's interesting that these Japanese people would profess their close affiliation between being Japanese and being Buddhist. Apparently the reality is that their country is a Shinto country. Shinto is a Japanese religion. And the emperor of Japan, who at this point is more of sort of a political face than anything else, there's a prime minister who is more power, but the emperor is sort of like the face of Japan, kind of like the Queen of England. I'm not sure how well of a comparison that is, but more I can tell than like some sort of political strength, she's sort of the representation, right? And that's true of the emperor. But the emperor, by definition, is the leader of the Shinto religion. So you can see why it's becoming ironic that people would say, I'm Japanese, therefore I'm Buddhist. Apparently, a big reason for that, and this is where it becomes even more ironic and sort of interesting, is that in order for Japan to go to war, the emperor must declare that war. And so when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, that was under the direct okay of the emperor. And so it's also, here's, again, another thing people like to say is that they don't like America, they don't like Christianity because they affiliate America strongly with Christianity because they think we're a warring country. And so they profess how they're Buddhist, when in reality their country is Shinto, and that Shinto religion was the one that started Japan's involvement with World War II. And from what I can tell, once the emperor did that, people were still so opposed to war at the time that a lot of them said, I'm not Shinto, I'm Buddhist. And they switched over. So it's sort of ironic that they say they're Buddhist because they're Japanese, when in reality it's a Shinto country. And it's also ironic that they tell us as Americans that we're a warring country, when the reason that they're Buddhist is because their country did declare war on America, but that religion was Shintoism. And so a lot of them switched to Buddhism at that point. And so from what I can tell, that's the reason that a lot of them are Buddhists now, is because they're so opposed to war that even though their national religion is Shintoism, like essentially Japan is Shinto because their emperor is the leader of the Shinto religion. It's sort of like the Pope in the Vatican City. It's the representation of their country. It's sort of ironic now that they say I'm Buddhist simply because they're so opposed to war and that history there.